Remember the 5th of November.
You weren't, you said that kind of quiet. Just to stand up, rise.
This is one of my personal favorite movies.
Oh, I know, because you quoted the whole damn thing. It is. I don't hold it in as high regard as you do. That's for sure. But is it an awesome movie? Is it a movie that I watch probably once a year at least? I mean, it's an awesome movie.
Yeah,
you know,
it's good. It has actually been a couple years since I've seen this.
You told me that last night, and that surprised the hell out of me. You know, because I mean, I know how much this movie.
See, this isn't a movie I can just throw on and watch.
Oh, really?
No, because I have to watch the whole thing. From beginning to end. I can't just pick it up in the middle. If it's on in the middle...
I've got errands, but... Well, V for Vendetta's on. I gotta watch this now. But it is, though. It does... It holds... It grabs your attention like that, and you just keep watching it. And keep watching it, you know?
Yeah, it's good.
Well, of course it's good.
I mean, all of it's good.
Well, for me... It's the story. The story's awesome, and I remember watching it for the first time. Oh, would I have been in? I guess I would have been in high school. Maybe I was, middle school. And I remember a few years later when I had read 1984. I was like,
I mean,
I was like, this is 1984,
except
but with a better ending.
Yeah.
Or a happier. In a sense, I guess you could say better ending, But that's what makes it so awesome, because it's kind of what frustrates you about 1984. But in V for Vendetta, you're like, fuck yeah, the people won.
Yeah,
and it's that whole message which is awesome, which is just like
the government should be afraid of the people.
Yeah, well, I love that is something I just loved in this movie, was just that slow build of like. Just like the people just got more tired.
They got fed up and more fed up.
Well, it was just...
And it was all he was doing was lighting the fuse.
Well, it was... Yeah, he put that just like idea in their head. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole point, was that ideas are... Yeah. Things in writing and ideas are more powerful than any guns or anything out there, can be. I also... When I think of this movie, though... I mean, you can't help, obviously not. You have to think of V. Like, he's awesome. And Hugo Weaving crushes.
Yeah.
Even though you don't see his face, like, his mannerisms and the way he sounds, it's just, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like,
he's very, like, he's, like, eccentric.
Yeah. Like, he is, and that's, there's that piece of trivia that it was James Purefoy that played him for, like, 5 weeks, and then he left. And Hugo Weaving came on, and there's times they said on screen that is James Purefoy because he's in costume.
Yeah.
And it does make me wonder which parts were him, because there are times where he is a little more lively, and it's like that. I wonder if that's Hugo Weaving or if that's James Purefoy. Also, looking back, it is a little strange to think Natalie Portman. I mean, this is a whole... Hugo Weaving's Australian, but it's a whole British cast. I mean, you have Stephen Fry, Stephen Ray, Eddie Marzon, John Hurt, and they all put in great performances.
No, they're all really good, but you're right, they're all English.
And then Natalie Portman's American.
Yeah.
And she does fine. I mean, I can't tell, unless it's outlandishly bad, I can't tell when an American's doing a poor English accent.
Yeah.
She seemed fine to me, and she's good in everything she does.
Yeah,
she was awesome.
And we talked about this last night. This was a strange, when this movie was made, it was a strange time for English actresses. There wasn't
that like in between. There were people that were like in their late 30s, 40s.
Yeah,
and much older, but there wasn't someone that was like early to late mid-20s, and someone that was like a star like that, nowadays you have
Lily James.
Lily James actually probably would have done really well in this role. We talked about that last night. So I think,
but there's several actresses that probably could have pulled this off if this was to be made today. But then there wasn't many actresses to do it, and Natalie Portman did a really great job. And I don't mean there wasn't any, just there wasn't any known actresses at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they had to sell it on something. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it obviously
the main character, you never see his face.
You don't see his face. It would appeal to people who read the comics. I mean, this is an Alan
This was
Moore
also
comic.
Yes, it was. It was a popular comic. It was also a controversial movie at the time. This was going to be the first movie to have been made where the main character and the heroine was a terrorist since 9/11.
In a sense. I mean, he's glorified as someone who is blowing up buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
And and it was not too. I mean, it was a few years after 9/11.
I mean, it's 2006.
Yeah,
so,
but still,
it's 5 years.
Yeah, it's still 5 years. So for that to be but I think they made the right decision to make it because it's such a good movie. You know, like it's. It is one I can see. You say you can't just put it on. I can just put it on kind of whatever mood.
See, I can't walk in and out of the room. No, I can watch it whenever. But once I start it, if I can't walk into the middle, I've got to start it over. And
Jesus.
it's one. It's like once I see it on, I'm like, oh, V for Vendetta's on. I want to watch this whole thing.
So is it for you? Is it much like for me where it's all story. It's everything. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the message behind it that I love. Do you like the fight sequences? Because I get pumped with those too. When especially the in the underground where he's getting lit up with bullets, and then he says, he goes, I'll kill all y'all before y'all even have a chance to reload, and he does.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Like that one, and the one in the studio when he's got everybody dressed in the mask, and he comes out and
he has to take Evie with him.
Yeah.
Well, see, and last night, because I told you there were two parts that, even though it has nothing, one has something to do with V, but there were two storylines that I really liked, and they still, for some reason, they've stuck with me. One is the Stephen Fry storyline, where he's someone, the moment V appeared on the screen, you could tell he was in agreement. He was listening to him. He didn't like what the government was doing. And he decided to do his own little comedy bit, and it showed that he was homosexual, and he had the Quran. Like, he was doing things that everyone in the back of their mind wanted to do, but they were afraid of what the government would do to them. And he was in hiding, but he was still doing it. And I thought that was cool how they showcased that there are still normal people out there that didn't believe or think that way. The other one was the coroner, who was the nurse at Larkhill. And I loved that how V, when he killed the media personality, the guy, I can't remember his name, I think it's James Allen or something, and that seemed like a ruthless kill. Like, all the other kills that he was actively going after people were ruthless, but that coroner, he killed her in her sleep. And he was able to talk to her, and she asked for her to apologize. I just thought that was a really kind of sweet moment in this movie that's pretty kind of chaotic.
She was in it for the science. Like, what she was doing was terrible.
And she knew that.
And she knew it, and she really didn't. It didn't really start to hit her until after it was too late. It was too late. Like, and then she was living with regret. Where the other people were fully taking advantage. She changed her name. She didn't want to be.
She wanted to go to America.
Yeah,
that was something else that I kind of picked up on this time around. Was the whole. I knew that they were kind of like a totalitarian government. I didn't even think about. They kept showing how there's a war in the United States, and I was like,
it's not real.
I see that, and this was for. I can't believe it took me this long, but it was like, that is that. I see. Part of me is thinking, I guess you're right. Like, all this news is just fictionalized to keep people thinking, "Oh, we have it okay."
Yeah.
When in reality,
that's always how I've taken it. Nothing that they're being shown of what's going on outside
is real. Is true, and it makes sense, and it honestly makes the movie better because it makes just people realize. Because there was so much throughout the movie that people started realizing was just bullshit. And then after a while, it was like, we don't believe a thing that you're telling us.
Yeah. And we're skipping over one of the best messages in the movie, which is that you're not truly living unless you're not living in fear.
I guess.
Which, well, no. That's the Natalie Portman storyline.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm fully aware. Because at that point, what did she say? It was a few days, and then she realized no one was like thinking about her or looking for it. She just went on living her life.
Yeah.
After going through what I guess.
Well, she thought she was living normally, and that was his point behind it all. It's like, no,
you're not living at all.
Yeah. You're living your whole life in fear of what's going to happen
instead of just living your life.
And you're turning a blind eye instead of just living.
Yeah. It's a good message. It is.
Yeah.
I totally understand why you love it, because the two main messages is government should be afraid of the people, and you're not living until you live in fear. You're like, these are my two mantras right here. But yeah, I do like this movie, and I do wonder what it would have looked like if the Wachowskis actually directed it, because they produced it and they wrote it.
I think it would have looked pretty similar.
They probably would have. I actually think the fight sequences may have been a little bit more well constructed, but yeah, you're probably right. And
I loved also the other thing I liked was the storyline of Stephen Ray looking for
the
detective.
I'm a sucker for investigative movies.
This does I love just the different storylines in this movie, because you've got that going on, and how you're piecing it together with him, but you're also seeing.
But then there's
different.
There's that scene at the end where they meet up with V, and they don't know it's V, but they meet up with him, and V basically he's like, you have all the information.
Yeah.
He goes, you just need a story. He goes, you need something to show why things happened. And it is that, it's just, I love when an investigation comes to like, oh, this is what happened. This, it's the solving of the problem. And it was, that scene I love because it spells out where the country was, because whenever you look at stories of totalitarian governments, you go, how in the world did it get to this point?
Yeah.
And that was
throughout history. You're like, wow. How did that happen? How? And then you start to look into it and you're like, oh, okay.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
And in this movie, he shows beat by beat. He was like, he goes, the attacks weren't from these terrorists. It was from it was brought on, and then it was people were living in fear, and they were out of fear. They elected John Hurt. John Hurt, by the way, is awesome. May he R.I.P. It also is. It's anyway. They elect him, and then all of a sudden he's the supreme. They come up with the cure for the virus, and it's just all of a sudden he appoints himself Supreme Chancellor, which is like basically dictator, and it's just to see how that whole story comes together is awesome. Side note about John Hurt, I do love how he played Winston Smith in 1984, who was the hero of 1984. And in this, he's basically Big Brother. I mean, he's the bad guy.
Well, I'm sure he knew of this story and was like, and he was a fan.
I'm sure they approached him too. Yeah. They were like, this is kind of a cool act. I mean, they got really good British actors.
Well, but I think part of the reason I could see there would be a want, because he was in 1984, and because it was like
there's a familiarity to the story. It's kind of cool. I know Alan Moore, after League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and other movies that try to adapt his books, he didn't want credit on this movie because like original authors will get a credit and they'll get royalties and stuff. He didn't want a credit. He said he's never going to watch the movie, which is sad. I've never read the comic. I don't know how many liberties or differences they took. I still thought this was a really good final product.
Yeah.
And they probably kept the same kind of heart of the comic, if I had to assume. That's kind of a shame that he never.
I mean, this has an emotional ending and an emotional build too. I mean, because as it's going, you get glimpses of the people.
Yep.
And then, one of the people they always check in on is the little girl.
The little girl who gets shot and killed. That part was awesome.
Which was the trigger.
Yes, that was when people were like, fuck the police.
Yeah.
Basically. The fingermen is what they were called. But see, that's something, that's why it is emotional, because she's sitting there talking about how it's, the people and how that, they need to be living, and I don't know the exact layout of the speech, but as it's going on, you see everyone removing the mask from their face, and at first it's people that you think that are alive, and then it's people that you have seen have died, and it's the whole point of the ending is it's the idea, it's what these people died for.
Yeah.
Stephen Fry, the lesbian from Larkhill.
Yeah.
And it was her and her girlfriend, and then it was her parents, and it was and the little girl. It was all these people that had died
for the
idea of basically freedom. You know, I mean, it is. It is an emotional.
It's a fucking great movie.
And because and something that I really noticed last night, that's how it ends. Like, that's where it ends, roll credits. Usually in a movie like that, something like that happens.
They'll try to wrap it
up.
And
they'll try and wrap up like, oh, what's going to happen to Natalie Portman? Or what's going to happen with this? It's like I feel like in some other movie they would show what life would be like 2 years down the line.
No.
And I loved that it leaves off with just like, no.
No, because they're free.
Yeah, they've essentially won. Because all the...
people call the shots. All the shot callers are...
Well, the military was like, we got to stand out. Like, no one's giving us orders.
Yeah.
And there's so many people.
Yeah.
And that was a cool way to show...
Gave the power back to the people. That was exactly what he was all trying to do.
I know. Another cool way they showed it to me, throughout the whole movie, people, and they really hammer on the point about how media controls how people think, what their actions are going to be.
A lot of the times in those when you have those type of takeovers, they're able to gain control of the media and media outlets pretty early on.
Right.
A lot of times, I mean, that's what's papers, magazines, they'll...
And the cool thing was, when it first starts out, they're just watching it, and then as the movie goes on, you can tell by their nonverbal acting, the people of society are just kind of becoming a little bit more and more skeptical, right? And then when John Hurt's character, Chancellor, he is trying to give a speech to tell people not to go out in the street, because V had said, join me on the streets on the 5th. And he's giving this huge, heated speech, and there's no one watching TV.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, fuck yes. Like, it is so awesome.
Yeah.
I do. I give this movie an A. I do. I really... A minus. It's an A minus. I mean, there are...
It's an A.
Because it isn't like while the story's awesome, it isn't like the most amazing made film.
It's
that's your opinion, man.
Yeah.
I think for story and idea alone, I just give it an A minus, and then I think I probably would give it an A, because it is something that I always revisit, and I'm always catching little things here and there, and I just love it. I do really love this movie. So, got anything else you want to talk about?
No. To me, again, this is personally one of my favorite movies. This is an A movie for me, and it's
awesome. Great. Yeah, it's on Netflix right now.
It is on Netflix. It is the 5th of November.
So watch it.
For
what Guy Fawkes would have wanted, what V would want.
I mean, at no point is that story not relative. Like, that's...
You mean, yeah. No, it's something that it's always... It doesn't matter how old you are, where you are, it can hit you in the same exact way, which is... like, you gotta live. You gotta be free. I love it. So, but that is our take on V for Vendetta. God, what a movie. Yeah, that's another movie it ends. I'm like, God, amazing.
And we'll catch you next time
with our take. We'll see you.